I'm Margaret. Welcome to my long arm room. Today I'm going to show you how I attach a quilt to my Gammill Statler stitcher. This is the quilt that we're going to be attaching, and just let me get the backing material out and we'll start getting things set up. Alright, one of the first things that I do when I attach a backing to my long arm is I measure it. I want to make certain that I've got at least 4 inches on both sides plus 4 inches on the top and the bottom. So an additional 4 inches all the way around the quilt. The reason for that is because I really need to be able to make certain that my stitching head doesn't hit any of my pins, and I need room to be able to attach my clamps, and I'll show you one of my clamps. Let me get one off for you. I need to be able to also attach one of my clamps, or actually 2 on each side. So that's the reason for the additional 4 inches that we always ask for on a quilt that's being sent out to be long-armed. So the first thing I do is lay my material wrong side up, and I fold it in half, removing any little extra threads that might be hanging about. And I just do a quick, here we are in half, and I stick a pin in there so that I know where my half mark is. And then I open it up. And on my leader strip, I'm not certain if you can see this or not. I want to make sure you can. On my leader strip, there is a mark. Let's see if I can zoom in for you. There's a mark right here that is my center. It also has a 2 next to it. The 2 is because my leader strips are coated together. So this half mark on this matches my half on this one, so on my back leader. So you always want to make sure that you're using the same pair. So once I do that, I'm going to just find my middle again where my pin is. I'm going to line my pin right up at the half mark. And then I'm just going to start pinning. I'll back the camera out so that you really can watch what I'm doing now without me standing in the middle of it. Then I grab a whole bunch of pins and I just drop them in my sleeve, or in my little, in this area, so that I've got them. I first go down the entire length of the quilt, holding the backing material tightly against my leader strip, and then I pin it. And then I go down a little farther, grab it, hold it tight so that it's taut, and I pin it again. I do that all the way down to the end of one side. I'm getting there. And then when I get to the very, very end, I actually do 2 pins to hold it at the end. So now I've got my 2 pins at the end. The next thing I do is I just go back and fill in my pins. The pins should be pretty close together. This is about the range that I try to get, especially when you've got a big quilt, because they are really heavy. There's a lot of material there. So I just go from one end to the other. And once I get back to the middle, I'm going to do the exact same thing down the other side. And I'm almost at the middle. I must be getting pretty good because I actually at this point grabbed the exact number of pins that I needed. So today's my luck. So there's 1/2. Oh, I probably need another one right there. So I'll go grab one. See, I've got a little space here that just really isn't pin to pin, so I'm going to stick another one in there. And I just double check what I've done to make sure I've got them pretty good and even and straight, and they're all in there. And now I'm going to do the second half. These pins are corsage pins. They're big, they're strong, and they hurt like the devil when you prick yourself with them, so you really try hard not to. Okay, now I've come around to the back side of my quilt, or the backing and the long arm. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to release the back roller. And my reasoning for releasing the back roller is because I really want to be able to pull my back leader closer to me so that I'm not leaning over the long arm to try to get it on, just as a precaution for my back. So let me get rid of this extra string. And I'm going to repeat and do the same thing that I did on the front side. I found my center of my leader strip. Now I'm going to find my center of my back. Fold it in half. Get that center point again, stick a pin in it. And then attach it to the leader. So here I am, and I'm just going to attach it right to the leader strip. Doing it the same way, starting at the center, working out to one side, holding it taut. Good and tight, pinning. I'm going to pin all the way down to the end, put my 2 pins in it, then come back filling it in, and then I'll do it on the other side. Then our next step is to straighten out the backing material and make certain that it's free of any extra threads. Threads are now a part of my daily life. I am forever picking up threads since I'm a long armer. I try to contain them in my sewing room, but that doesn't happen. So now I'm almost done with this back of it. I'll pin the other side, and then I will come back to you and show you how we go about winding this up on the long arm. I'll be right back. I've now got the entire backing pinned on it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all the backing material and I'm going to pull it out as straight as I can. You can see my leader strip from the front of the long arm is coming out. If I see any threads, I immediately grab them, especially when you've got a light backing like this. You've got to get all your threads out, because once you quilt it together, it will definitely show. So once I've done that, then I come back to the front of my machine and I just get my leader up tighter so that I've started my rolling. And I make sure that the leader strips are pretty tight. And I'm going to come back around to the back of the machine again. And this is where I'm letting the long arm table back here really help me out with my job. I pull the backing straight out and it doesn't touch the floor. It just lays nicely against my table here in the back. I straighten it up as much as I can, and again I grab all the little threads that are on it, and it's on. So now it's time to start rolling. So now what I'm doing is I hold one end of this the back end, the back leaders tight, so that what's happening is, and I think you can see it, the material is just evenly pulling across that leader strip. And what that does is that shows me where I'm going to have some problems. Like right now, it's coming up, it's getting all bunchy. So I stop what I'm doing, I come back around, and I straighten up my leader strips. And I straighten up my material a little bit more. Get it as straight as I can. There we go. And then I go back to rolling again. Okay, now you see I've got one right here that's a pretty good one. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to release both wheels and I'm going to play with it a little bit. I'm going to wind it up. Whoops, I got a couple of really good dark threads on there. I want to get those off quickly. Grab my little lint roller. I go through multiple of these. Now at this point I'll just go right across it and grab up any extra threads that are showing up. And I'm going to unroll it a little bit more. And I'm just going to play with it back and forth until I've got it, you know, really good and straight. Sorry about that, I ran out of tape. What I did was I just finished rolling the backing on the quilt and got that all ready to go. And now what I've done is I've laid the batting. This is warm and white. It was the customer's choice. My batting of preference is wool. It is beautiful to quilt with. It's warm, it's snuggly, it's not stiff. This is Warm and Natural's version, and it's warm and white. I'll show it to you. It's warm and white. I do like this one. This is also one I use. I also really like to use, let me grab one of them, Dream Cotton. I especially like the Dream Wool. That's a beautiful, it's a beautiful brand. It's really soft. It's really light. I like this one too. And I do use polyester sometimes. I have a couple of customers that really like the polyester, so I do use that once in a while. It's not my preference, but some customers like it. So anyhow, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a straight line on the batting. And the reason why I do this is because I want the quilt to go onto the long arm square. So I'm going to program my long arm to lock the channel. And you can see I've got, here's my leader strip, and I'm really pretty close to the leader strip because I want to keep things in good condition. I'm just going to take a couple of stitches in place, lock my channel, and then I'm actually just going to walk it right down the entire length of the quilt, making sure that I'm pretty smooth. Sorry that you've got my back. Once I've done that, I'm going to take off my channel lock. I'm going to cut my threads. Grab my scissors. And then I am ready to lay my quilt top on. Now I still don't have my side straps attached. Those are, it's still free on the sides. So I'm going to take my quilt. Okay, so now I'm ready to attach the quilt. This quilt is a friend of mine's quilt, and we've purposely done some things to it that you shouldn't do or aren't normally done. One of them being she didn't square up the outside of the quilt. You can see her points. She's well beyond 1/4 of an inch on all of her points up. And what she's going to do is I'm going to lay it and square it up as best I can. And then when I go to put the borders on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these as my points, as my reference points, so that when she goes to square it up, the quilting will start basically right here, and it will be really nice because it'll frame it. So what I'm going to do is lay it down on my basted line up here so that I can get it pretty square. Squaring up the fabric, not pulling it a lot because I don't want to stretch it, especially with this quilt because it's set on point. It would be very, very easy to stretch it, and that's really the last thing that you want to do, because then you've got problems down the road with making certain that the quilt maintains its square. Now what I'm going to do, because these lower points here, I'm not sure if you can see them or not, these lower points right there, these are the ones that I'm going to use along with my channel lock to make certain that I've got the quilt pretty square. So I'm going to turn my channel lock on, and I am going to just baste right through the layers. My channel lock's on. I'm going to do one good stitch, pull up my threads. I'm not going to lock it, I'm just going to stitch. I'm going to do my channel locks on, and I'm going to come down and I'm going to line up my next point so that my fabric on those points is really, my stitches coming out, are really pretty square. I think you know what I mean. Because I want to use these points on her quilt as the square part, by doing this I'm going to be able to square it up based on that point. So I'm almost done. Alright, that's done. So now that I've done that, what I'm going to do is just lay it out nice and flat, and then I can baste it across the top, and then I can take these threads out because I don't need them anymore. They are what has given me my square. So once I've done that, I'm going to baste along my sides, and then I can actually start quilting. Alright, I wanted to give you an update. I've gotten the first border done, and I wanted to update you as to my reference point and why I did what I did. You can see I stopped the quilting so that it didn't go beyond this point. And the reason for that is because when the person who owns the quilt gets it, they're going to measure that point 1/4 of an inch out, and they're going to then trim their quilt so that when they go to put their binding on the quilt, the binding is 1/4 of an inch sewn in, and then they're going to have this beautiful point all the way around, so they won't lose the point, and they won't cut off any of the quilting because I've measured to quilt inside of that area. So I'll be back and show you when the quilt's all done. Thanks. Hi there, I'm back. I wanted to show you the quilt. It's all done. I'll show you. It took about 9 hours to do it. And you can see it's these absolutely gorgeous feathers all over. And I think it really came out nice. I think they're really going to like it. What I did was I did a border of feathers. And my feather border is a little bit larger than my inside feather edge to edge. So what I've done is really made a quilt within a quilt. It really, really looks pretty. I hope it shows up nicely on the video because it is really pretty. So I wanted to show that to you. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us. Thanks.